You know what? We are going to develop a new type of reactor. It's going to be a nuclear reactor. So that's what I'm going to work on right now. I will yeah, Blender, we still need to do one little thing before we do that. We have to actually define this new device in Sprite Devs. So I think it's gonna be a big device. Nuclear reactor sounds like something that should be big. So maybe at least as big as the storage. Yeah, storage is 3x4, so one height. I'm gonna copy the storage and do nuclear reactor. And it will want to consume probably refined uranium. So we will have to be able to refine uranium. But let's design the nuclear reactor. Maybe we'll start by just allowing direct consumption of uranium, and then we'll go from there. So objects devices nuclear reactor. I will go and reload my scripts. And I don't know, I will try to maybe comment everything I do in Blender, so Kevin, you can like get some ideas on how to model things. So first of all, in the scene collection here, I would go to the devices and create a new collection named in the exact same way as I named the new device in here, in the sprite devs. It will be a nuclear reactor. And now I can do spacebar. In my setup, spacebar is the menu, the quick search, and I can do activate nuclear reactor. So it now activates me a blank area. This collection is enabled, cameras are enabled, lights are enabled. I can click numpad 0 to focus on the area where we are here. And if I shift and middle mouse click and drag, I can pan this view around. So what I see here immediately is that the 3D cursor is not at the center, so I should do Shift C to center out the 3D cursor. And now I clicked numpad 0 again to focus the view. And I'm gonna do Shift A to add a mesh. And I will begin with the cube. So I'll just take a cube. Oh yeah, on top left, numpad 0, that's also, this top left view is for that purpose. And I also always turn on the render preview with shading, so it would actually look like as if it's rendered. Yeah, so we added the cube. Now we can maybe, if I press numpad dot key, it sort of changes how the camera rotates around the object, and it shifts to the selected one. So I want this cube to be flat on the ground, and it's 2 by 2. I can still modify in here before I commit to it, so I could just I could set the size to maybe 2.8, so it's gonna be almost, no, actually half of that, 1.4. Wait, what? Why is it? There is a bug. The wrong camera got switched. Activate nuclear reactor. There we go. And there's one more thing that often happens when I created the object. It was created here in the whole hierarchy. It has to be moved here. So when I create the object, I have to make sure that this collection is selected. Anyway, so I just messed up this cube. It's impossible to modify it anymore, but I can just do G to grab it, and then press Z to lock on Z axis, and then press 1 to move it up by 1. It was a little too much, so I could GZ minus 0.5. I think, no, you know what, I messed it up. The cube scale is wrong. I'm gonna delete this and add it again. Mesh cube. Let's make it 2.8. So now it's almost fitting in our viewport, and location Z can be set at, let's just not set it. I will just press 1 to go to the side view. Make sure the cube is selected without the lights. If you see any yellow lines here, it means you selected the light. You have to click in the background. And then GZ, and I will just eyeball it. Precision doesn't matter at all. The only thing that matters is that you don't go outside of the bounds of the preview. Yeah, so this is the base. I like to use a cube as a base for things like that. And I don't know, let's think how we could make this reactor look a little different from the ones that we have. Or maybe we could even do a little quick reference search for nuclear reactor sci-fi, just to see what other people come up with that. So yeah, one thing I noticed that most of these things are circular, which probably is a nice idea because reactor has to have something going around it. Yeah, you made a video of how you implemented the chessboard, if you want to use that to get an idea. Yes, I would like to see that, definitely. I think you could share the video in modding, if you want, in Stardeus modding on Discord. I don't think it's gonna be something bad. If you feel comfortable, of course. If you don't, just share it personally. Alright, so after looking at these, I think I'm gonna go with not a cube, but with a cylinder as a start for the nuclear reactor. Just looking at these pictures will sort of give some anchor to the brain on how sci-fi reactor should look like. If we remove the sci-fi and see the nuclear reactor, like how it really looks like, they're quite boring. Yeah, they're quite boring. But still, everything is circular, so definitely we're gonna go with circular design for this. So I'm gonna again click X, remove the cube, Shift A, add mesh, cylinder. So the cylinder will be the start, and I will this time do 64 faces. The poly count doesn't matter at all since we are exporting sprites. We can go as inefficient as necessary. And I'm gonna just bring it up with GZ, so it's somewhat on the ground. We can always hit F12 to render a preview in this area here, and then zoom in and see what the imperfections are and so on. So one thing, when we have a circular face, we should do right click and shade smooth. So just right click the object, shade smooth. And now you can see that it looks a little bit weird over here. The line disappears. To fix that, we have to go to the to this thing called object data properties, the green triangle, and we find the normals auto smooth. If we click that, you can play with the degrees here, but 30 usually is fine. Then this surface will be smooth, and the edge of the cylinder is gonna be sharp. This is exactly what we want, like a smooth round circular area here, and a very clear, distinctive edge of the cylinder. So now if we render, we can see that the gradient has disappeared, that those steps have disappeared from the render completely, and we have a nice smooth surface. So then I could probably pick a material for it. So we click this Material Properties tab with the object selected, and then we can go click on this button here and select one of the existing materials. One of the most populars are blue light desaturated. Then there is blue dark desaturated, which is a little darker. Then we have brushed metal with multiple directions. So X has one kind of pattern. Brushed metal Y will, okay, it looks the same here, but brushed metal Z will look different. Yeah, so brushed metal Z looks better on this side, but we can then select this face individually. By hitting tab, you enter the edit mode, or you can choose it here, object mode, edit mode. And if we have face selected, you can toggle these with 1, 2, 3. So 3 toggles the face selection, and we can select any face with mouse click. So can select this face, add a press plus over here to add a new material, will assign the material to the selected faces, and then I can select, for example, brushed metal X, and now we're gonna have two materials, but the whole thing here will look brushed metal, and it will look sort of consistent. So we can try brushed metal for nuclear reactor. And it's a little too small, so I'm gonna scale it up just a bit. Maybe like that. Now, yeah, we want something on the base of it, so maybe we will split this thing into 2 parts. The easiest way to do that is to do a loop cut, so you go press tab to enter the edit mode, then Control R goes into loop selection, into loop cut mode. We click with mouse once, then we can slide the selection and say pick somewhere here, and I will hit escape just once to zoom on this, because here we can see the preview of how it will look as it is rendered. Let me tell you, I have been using numbers to actually do this myself in the beginning, but then I noticed that there's very little difference, and it's much quicker to just eyeball it. So I'm just looking at the top left, see where the line is, and I feel that right here is a good spot to do a cut. So I do a cut here, then I can maybe switch to face selection mode by pressing 3, hold Alt, click on any of the edges, and I select whole face like that. Then I can do S to scale, and maybe scale it like so inside, just a little bit inwards, maybe up till that, and let's see how the render looks like. So this is now going to be a little bit, yeah. Now we want to have a clear separation between this, so we have to go back to the object data properties, and we can play with the angle here. As I reduce the angle, at some point, there we go, at 16 degrees, maybe 15 degrees, we're getting this outline. And if I hit render, and now we get this clear outline. But I don't like the looks of it. I don't like the shading. I don't like how the light falls from that. So I think I'm gonna at least select the base and assign a different material to that. So I'm gonna go to the materials, and it's not gonna be brushed metal. I'll create a new slot and select blue light desaturated, that popular material that I use all over the place. I don't know if I like how it looks in combination with this, so maybe we could just go back to edit mode, remove all the materials, assign one again, and do blue light desat. Okay. Alright, so I think this looks a little bit more better. I like it more. So now to reduce the amount of these little gradients that you can see here, you can go to modifiers and add a modifier, for example, subdivision surface, and you get this little weird stuff going on. So there are ways to fix that, but yeah, we're not gonna do subdivision surface. We're not gonna do subdivision surface. And there's one more thing I don't like. I don't like how the outline is drawn here. We don't have the outline over here, and it stops over here, and on the other side it cuts inside that. So I actually don't like this geometry, because this geometry produces like bad artifacts. So I'll just do a step back. I'm going to delete this face. Selected this, hold, click X, do delete face. Before I did delete face, I should have done Control and Numpad plus to expand my selection. Then I have selected this whole bottom part. I'll do X and select faces, so we got rid of the bottom. And now I'm gonna switch to edge selection mode by clicking 2, or I could click here, and I'm gonna hold Alt and click on the edge. So the edge is now selected. Now I can do G, Z to slide the edge up and down. I will keep it where it is. I will press E to extrude, and I can move it anywhere, then hit escape. So the extrusion happened, we have duplicate vertices here. Now I can hit S and scale the extruded region, so that's what we get if we do that. So we get this little skirt. So I'm gonna scale it like so, and then I'm gonna hit E to extrude again, click Z to lock it on the Z axis, and this is what I want. This is what I want. Tab exits the edit mode. I hit numpad 1, GZ to move it up, place it firmly on the ground. Alright, now let's see a render, and we should see much better results with outlines right now, because there will be no weird angles. Yeah, we see the outline all over the place here, and we see nice shadows. I don't really like this gradient, but it's not a big deal. We could probably smooth it out later. There are ways to do it. Yeah, but now what I like to do in Stardeus particularly, I like adding some ridges that emit light. So for example, since this is a reactor, it will probably have some like lights emitting out of it. So one thing I could do is hit 3, select Alt click to select this loop. And now I want to do a thing called checker deselect. So I hit space and type checker deselect, hit enter, and now you can see it deselected every second. But I want to deselect 2 and select 2, maybe deselect 3 and select 3. To do something like that, we can see here there's a mismatch, so maybe I should reduce the number of deselected to, let's say 1. I like this. So we're gonna use these selected faces to embed the lamps, the lights that will be shining from the part here. Hey, I'm Yoshi. I got it here a bit late, just finished dinner. Had no idea your art was 3D. Yes, Stardeus is a 3D game. just export it to 2D. So what I do here is I press I to inset the face. If I press I once, I get this. If I press I, oh shit. Sorry, ignore. If I press I once, I get this. If I press I once again, I can inset individually. But I want to press I one more time, because then I get this. And I want to make these little squares like so. And if you would look at the top of this view, I cannot move my mouse because it will ruin, but no, if you look here, you can see what button presses would do what exactly. So clicking I is switching in between individual on and off. There's also boundary, outset. I'm not sure what outset does. Oh, that's what outset does. Yeah, so that's how you can modify those tools. And I will keep these maybe like so. Then we could do extrude with E and do something like that. I'm gonna move it inside. So I would see part of that thing sticking out in the top right view. Click here. Got into ceramics. Yeah, I'm now doing a pot. And when we have that, you know, there's one more thing I want to show you. We could do Control Z once, Control Z twice. I do this again, and now there's this tool called Loop. No, wait. If I right click, Loop Tools, Circle. I could turn this into sort of circular pattern. And if I had more geometry here, it would look more like a circle. But I think that could work. So now if we hit E and move the mouse to move this inwards, we're gonna get something like that. So it's a little bit nicer geometry with more hints, more subtle. So I will now do new material with the selection still here, and I like using this blue light, which is very bright. And if I do F12 to render, what? It's not assigned? Oh, I didn't click assign. Yeah, so F12 to render, and we get this nice looking cut lamps. Okay. Yeah, so that's one thing that we could do. Also, like another tip with Blender, if you want to select like this whole loop, you could do Alt click, go here, Alt Shift click, and go around the whole thing. But you can also select just one piece, and you can do spacebar and type select similar and say choose area. No, it didn't work because no, area is not. Select similar. Polygon sides? No. Anyway, yeah, I failed to show a point, but sometimes, like if you want to select all things that look like this, for example, you could do select similar coplanar, so it will select everything that is in the same plane. Or you could do select this and do select similar coplanar wouldn't work, but you could see area, so all the faces that have the same area will be selected. This is super useful in modeling. Right, so what else could we do here? Let's do some details for the reactor. So I want to maybe have one part of it cut inwards. Yeah, so let's hit tab to exit the object to object mode, do Shift A and add a cube. Now I'm gonna scale this cube down, GZ to move it up. I'm gonna go to the top view, move the cube somewhere here maybe. Also eyeballing it, not paying too much attention. RZ to rotate 45 degrees to position it like that. Maybe again a little bit eyeballing to place it somewhat like so. And let's take a look here. I might want to rotate the cube a little bit, but I want to rotate on local axis, so I'm gonna go here and select local instead of global. And now I can do X and say 45, too much. Also negative, minus 15, so I'm gonna rotate this 15 degrees. No, that looks ugly. I'm not going to do that. So let's switch back to global. And what I'm trying to do here is I want to make this. I select both objects and do Control minus on numpad, and it is supposed to cut out a nice mesh, but it doesn't work the way I would expect it to. Because if I move it around, there you go. From like this is what I want, but sometimes it just doesn't work right. This depends on the geometry and where we are placing the cut. So yeah, that's why you cannot always make it work with just numbers. Sometimes you have to eyeball it. This is welcome to Blender. And we could try to scale to find a nice spot where it would cut the way I would want it to. And the reason why it's not cutting, maybe the removal of the top face here could help. So let's delete this face. No, it's not helping. Also, addition of the bottom face could help. So we might try. Also, you know what? I'm gonna disconnect a part of that object. So if we select something and hit P, we can separate by selection. So now we have two objects. There's this object and there's this object. So now this object here, this object here. One more tip. If you have multiple objects and you want to edit just one, you can hit slash on numpad and then you focus only on that object. So I can then do this, maybe select, click 2, shift, click on the edge to select the whole edge, hit F to fill it. So yeah, so when I filled the bottom and the top, now the bool tool is doing a better job with the cut here. I hit slash again to make it visible, and I believe that now I can move the tool. Yeah, now it's better. Now it's better. So the simpler the geometry, the better it works with the cutting tool, and the object that you cut in has to be fully enclosed from all directions for it to work well. I use the Bevel Modifier when I want to cut. Yeah, so I'm gonna maybe move this out just a little bit. So I want to have just a slight embedded area here. I want to hide this part so it will not obstruct my view from the top. That doesn't help much though. Yeah, I want to scale the cube a little bit, move it in like so, to have this little ridge. Maybe scale it on Z like that. So I want to make this spot here like a input port for the reactor, where we would input our materials or stuff. Now I could apply the bool tool, apply the cut, and then work with the geometry here, but I think I'm not going to do that. Instead I will simply add more objects in the area here. So to add an object directly on the edge here, I have to click Shift and right click to place the 3D cursor where I would want to add something. So I could, for example, if I want to place this directly in the center here, there's a way. I will grab the modifier cube, go to face mode, do G, Z, and pull this down until it's nearly aligned. Well, it's not going to be super perfect, but it will still work. Then I can select this particular face. Wait, I need face selection mode. 3. It's not that easy. With this cube, I cannot select the face easily, so I'm gonna go to... Oh, I can. Actually, I can. I'm sorry. Yeah, I want to select this face. So this face is the one that is here. And then I'm gonna hit Shift S and hit 2 to move the cursor to the center of that face. So that's how I align the cursor to be directly in the middle of this area here. And do I have a reference, or am I just freehanding this? I'm just, I don't know where it will go. All Stardeus art assets are just process. This is the exact process I used for everything. Just random creation. So then I will do Shift A. I'm gonna make sure that I'm in the object mode. I'm gonna do Shift A and I will add a torus, but I'm probably gonna add this torus object super toroid, which is one of the extensions. You can get it from the plugins list in Blender. So before I do this, I will want to rotate this thing on x-axis 90 degrees and on z-axis 45 degrees. Then the big radius will be smaller, the small radius will be smaller. It's a little slow because of that preview, so I'm gonna turn that preview off. No, it's still a little slow. Yeah, so I want to get like a port here. A port that would almost fit this whole area and have plenty of space around it. Maybe something like that. Yeah, so this looks all right. Maybe we could play with the amount of faces. I don't know if I want this to be too detailed, but maybe 12 would be nice. And here, 32. All right, let's go with that. Maybe, you know what, let's do 64. Yeah, let's do 64. So this is this port. And now with the port, we're gonna go into edit mode. We don't need half of the faces here, so I will click Alt Z to go into this thing here. And if I click number 4 and number 5 to change the perspective, 5 changes the perspective, 4 and 6 are rotating, so I can align this sideways, so I can do this. Wait, what? Wrong tool. I can do this and select these faces, then I hit X and delete. This time, yeah, I'm going to delete faces. So we cut out the geometry that we don't need. Okay, now we can do some creative stuff again. Let's select everything and try deselect, checker deselect. Oh no, that's not gonna work. Anyway, I'm gonna then do something else. I will select, holding Shift and Alt, I will click here, 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 and do a little section like that. Then I'm gonna skip 4 and do 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 4, and so on. So it's all repetitive. Oh shit. Also, what I like about Blender, Control Z will undo the selection, because selection is undoable. So it's easy to fix the errors if you accidentally mess up your selection. So almost done. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have nice gaps of 4. So after I did this, I could try something like extrude. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but maybe I'm gonna hit escape. And what if I scale them? So this is how I made matter reactor, those rings around the matter reactor. And when we scale, let me get back, I'll select local coordinates. And when we scale, I can do shift, no, shift X, no, shift Z. Hard to tell. I don't want to scale on, yeah, this is the Z. Can scale only on Z, or maybe, no. Trying to find a nice option. So yeah, looks like I don't need this at all because it scales properly. So I'm gonna do that. Or maybe we could do GZ on local and expand this port a little bit and then scale. I think that looks better. Yeah, so I'm gonna do that. Quick render to see where we're at with this. Now you can see there are nice shadows and shading from this, but we can... Oh, this looks a little ugly. We can then do... What if I do Control plus? Yeah, it selects the whole thing. And we can assign a different material. Since this is a uranium nuclear reactor, I want something green here. So we have, for example, green, dark, but I want the green dark here, and I probably want blue light here. So that gives us this nice shiny port where you can plug your uranium in. And I think it would be nice to put some green over at over here, maybe. Could look all right. Yeah, because like the nuclear reactor. No, I don't like it. Maybe we could do a thin line. So we're gonna do I to inset. Do a little bit of inset like that. Maybe we will do E to extrude this down a little bit. And if we can extrude too much, we will see the lights down there. So we can do this just a little notch. And then we can assign this. If nuclear turned out to be a bad idea on Earth, should we think of using it in space? I don't know. Why not? Like if you can find uranium in space, maybe you would want to use it. And we can then do some lighting here, like select Alt-click to select this, Shift Alt-click to select that, and we can do blue light. So we have this lit edge, like so. Not sure if it looks good though. Maybe only one edge would be fine, so the inner one could be lit and the outer one will be regular. So we will select that and select blue light desaturated again, assign, render. Okay, so we have something like that now. What else could we do? This part here looks a little empty, right? Looks really empty. What if we did something to that thing? What if we selected this edge and tried to bevel it? Now, one more tip. If you bevel and see the angles are weird, you have to go to object mode, select the object, hit Control A and apply scale. And after you apply scale, the bevel should look perfect, like perfect angles. And let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure if I like that. Let's do a bigger bevel, but not too much, so we will not go through this. Maybe that's fine. Quick render. What are the dimensions? Yeah, this one is 3 by 3. Should be 3 by 3, yeah. Okay, so we have this. Then we want, I don't know, some sort of centrifuge here or something. So we will select this face. I'll select this face and we will extrude it. You know what, I don't like that it is almost touching this cube here, so I'm gonna scale this a little bit like that. There will be more distance between them. And if you get this in the render, it means that you're in the edit mode, which messed things up a little. You can exit the edit mode and it will render fine. Yeah, maybe it would be nice to bring this thing up and scale it out just a little bit. Just trying different situations. Oh, and then we get this little cap over here. I don't think I like that. So then we will select this face and do GZ and move it up. But it cuts too much. So this needs to be scaled down. There we go. I think that's gonna work. We are not out of bounds. That's good. And now I will do something with the cap here. So I will do E to extrude it. I will extrude it upwards. Maybe somewhere here. And we can do something right here. The reason also why I don't use like measurements is because I like to have the designs a little bit asymmetric on purpose. Because sometimes symmetric designs are a little bit boring. You can see the pattern easily. I'm gonna do a loop cut here in the middle and reselect that. So I'm gonna select 5, make a gap of 5, select 5, and that's gonna be enough. And I will do inset, do something like that, and I will click E to extrude. Bring those in, do a quick render. Quick render with the full object. Yeah, so we have two like holes in here. I think we're gonna route the pipes through these holes. Yeah, we're gonna route the pipes. And we will make the edges of these holes emit light. So I'm gonna select the edges, click I. I use this inset a lot, really like it. When we inset, we do E to extrude, but then we hit escape, and when we hit S to scale, so we'll scale this, but it seems to be scaling weirdly. So I hit escape and check. Okay, let's use global, and instead of, oh, we are now in the individual origins. That's the right one. Maybe we could select, no. One thing with extrude, if you ever extrude and deselect without moving, you will have duplicate faces. That's not good. So let's do this again. Inset, maybe up till here. Then we could just try to scale. That's, maybe that looks interesting. I don't know. Let's see. That looks, does that look interesting? We could then do the light inside. Yeah, I think that looks interesting. Maybe a little bit more scale, and then select the inside. It's actually hard to see what's inside, but we can do something like that. And then select the insides here. Dot on numpad helps with clunky navigation if it ever comes to that. Now I cannot tell. Oh, this is the side. Or you know what, there's an easier way. We can just select the middle in here with shift and then do Control plus once, twice, and as we press twice we can see that we have selected this edge. So let's do Control minus to step back. No, I don't like it. Actually, let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is my perfectionism. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'm going to switch that to blue light, and it's going to be like shiny inside this reactor. How do you reproduce the lights in the game? I don't, I just render them. I just have these sprites and they have lights baked in. That's it. And now since we have these two holes here, maybe we're gonna keep the holes and have wires elsewhere, because these look pretty fancy. But let's see how a cable would look. So to add a wire, it's really easy in Blender. Shift A, curve, Bezier. Then you move the curve to a position like you would move an object in the object mode. So you have something like that, right? Then you go to the curve menu here, object data properties, to the little curve, and you will find bevel, where you can tweak it to be the thickness of your choice, and then you can ramp up the resolution to be something like 16, so it's going to look nice and round. And as with the cylinder, we should do right click and shade smooth, and if we do shade smooth, we should never forget go to mesh. No, we don't need that. Yeah, so here we go. We have a cable running through. So if we go to edit mode, we can then grab these individual points of the Bezier curve and we can adjust them. So we can shape our curve, rotate each point, and do whatever. We can select this point, go up and down, hit S to scale, and if you do Alt S, you can change the thickness of one point, but I'm not going to do that here. So I want this cable to go around, and if I hit E, I will extrude the curve and I'd add a new point. So I'm going to do that, add a new point, move it in place, using rotate, scale, and G to grab and move, R to rotate, S to scale the point. So Alt S scales like that, and S alone scales like that. And of course we want this curve to be different looking, maybe, I don't know, some material would be nice too. We will go to materials and select, how about glass? How about green glass? It's going to be transparent. And it's going to be nicely lit by the light here. And have a lot of reflections. So now we can see that we're out of bounds. So easy way to fix this is to rescale, but we could just try to put the curve closer to the object that we're editing. And we can then select 2 points by holding Shift and clicking them, and do segment subdivide to add a third point, and then we can grab this third point and we have more control over how we shape the curve. And then we render again and see if we are still in the area. There. We're not out of bounds anymore. Alright. So we want to put this tube somewhere. It has to go somewhere. Now it's people are laughing at me for this, but I routed back to the object. So that's what I'm gonna do, and probably for that I will find a orientation. And I will maybe duplicate this if I Alt D. No, I don't want to Alt D, Control Z. Alt D makes a linked copy, so it means that if I do Alt D and then I modify the object, if I scale it, it's alright, but if I say modify the mesh in any way, it modifies both objects at the same time. So I don't do that Alt D thing unless I'm sure that I'm gonna be cloning something very similar, like a bolt or a button. It will not change. So I'm just gonna add a new cube instead. In object mode, mesh cube. We will bring this cube in here, scale it down. It's just going to be a little port for these buttons, for not the buttons. Now, if you hit 1, you get one view. If you hit Control plus 1 on numpad, it goes backwards, so you can turn it around. So yeah, the port will be somewhere here. Again, I'm eyeballing it because it won't matter much. I'm gonna scale this on everywhere except Z, so S Shift Z will do that. Scale it like so, maybe bring it down a little bit. Maybe that's too much, so scale like that. GZ, bring it down, and we're gonna select Shift select that and hit Control minus to cut this in. And now we will route the tube in there. So E to extrude the curve, rotate, move it inside, twist it like that. And it doesn't matter how it ends up in here because it's not going to be visible. We will see it from this direction. Maybe we want this to be somewhere here, because we will need some more space for other tubes that will be coming in. And what I like to do is like to think if this tube would naturally look like that, if it was like affected by gravity, how would it fall? What is the like thickness of the tube? What is the material of the tube? And like if the tube is flexible or not, is it heavy or not? And that determines how the tube would look like in the real world if it was hanging over here. So usually it should be nicely rounded, no sharp angles, no imperfections, no tight bends or anything. I think that could be satisfiable for now. Also, I'm not sure if it's nice to have the tube green, because there's green circle down here and the green tube, so we want some contrast. I want to find the color that complements green and use it. So what color is that? We can just go to, I don't know, any color wheel, and we can choose something opposite from green. That's the easiest way how to find a color that would match. So green complementary is red or something in this range, so orange, purple, something like that. So we're gonna pick maybe red for this tube. We have the glass red as well. Do you plan to on adding some sort of animations to some objects? It is technically possible, but I'm not doing this yet, because maybe if the game becomes a success in early access, I will just hire an artist, a 3D artist, who will redo all my developer art here, and or just add the animations. And it's a lot of work to just, you know, export multiple frames. Then you have to like switch those frames in the code. It's not hard, but basically managing all the animations and exporting them is the hard part. So that's something I'm not willing to do early in the project. So I want to add I want to fill this out. And I think it has no top. Let's just add a top, just for the sake of nobody will see it, but still has to be perfect on the inside as well. Yeah, so then this hole here, I want this to actually be hollow. So to make it hollow, I will grab this, do Shift S2 to put the 3D cursor here, and we're gonna do Shift A, mesh cylinder. We will rotate the cylinder 45 degrees, 90 degrees on X, and then rotate 45 degrees on Z. Scale it down so it fits, and then we're gonna shift click this and do Control minus on numpad, and we can see that it's a little too shallow. I want to also select this object and do shade smooth, so this will be smoothly cut. And when we do that, auto smooth is selected. Alright, that's good. Now I want to scale this object with the local coordinates on a... Oh shit! I selected two objects at the same time. I want to scale this one, but only on Z. As Z, and I'm scaling it so it's gonna go deeper, deeper, deeper into the reactor. And here is our hole. Now if we render, I like the arc reactor part looks nice, thank you. It's not visible, but you can see this little ridge here, so this is this hole. Maybe we will have this visible from different rotations when we add more rotations. I think we could also scale this just a little bit, so it would be almost touching those. Maybe even more. Maybe we could even do it like that. Oh, now it went through. So SZ, let's scale it down. It's not gonna go through. And let's do a quick render. Yeah, so there is a hole here. It's not clearly visible, but it's gonna be fine. All right, now we might want to have something here on the bottom. Maybe some controls, maybe some buttons. I don't know, maybe just a different pattern or something. So let me select. I'm just gonna eyeball it, shift, right click to put the 3D cursor. I'm gonna add let's try UV sphere. So I'm gonna scale it down. It's gonna be like a spherical control bubble or something. So sort of like a trackball. We'll shade it smooth. We will go into edit mode and cut the bottom. Delete verts. And let's select, maybe brushed metal would look good on this. Let's do brushed metal. Do a little render. Balls of steel. Yeah, brushed metal looks nice because we get some reflections on that. And I want to have multiple copies of this ball. And maybe put it in a circular way. So I'm gonna just do this. Bam, Alt D. Bam, Alt D. Bam, Alt D. And it's not fitting. So see, I'm just gonna eyeball it. I don't care. G to move. Put it here. Things are not perfect. But there's the saying, like, good enough is better, done is better than perfect. Then we can select all of them and move them inwards just a little bit. Now if you would try to lay those out like perfectly with perfect distances, you would spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes to try to figure this, but I could just do that and I don't care. I'll bring them up just a little bit so we'll get the outline on this end, and there will be sort of, there's going to be a gap here, but this will make this little nice shadow and a nice outline. Let's see. Yeah, so what else are we missing? This looks boring, this part looks boring, this part looks boring. So what else I like to do is to do a loop cut somewhere here, one more loop cut. Loop cut here, one more loop cut here, close to that one. But I'm always keeping an eye on top left, because here is how the gap would look in the render. So it looks bigger here than I would normally want to do, and the whole reactor looks stretched upwards. But when you see that in the render, it sort of gets squeezed from above because of the perspective. So yeah, when I do that, I will switch to face selection mode, do E to extrude, and I just move it around, hit escape to put it back. Then it allows me to do S and scale it, and I will do Shift Z to lock it on the Z axis, and I'll scale it just a little bit. Again, looking here to see that we still have some visible area of this face, and now we're gonna assign a blue light to it and do a little render to see how it looks. And we get this nice thing that you see all over the Stardeus artwork. I believe this workflow is similar to how it's done in Factorio as well. I love how it looks. Thank you. Yeah, and I see imperfection here, like this looks weird, it goes nowhere. I want this to be like going directly in there. So I'm gonna do something like that. And this should probably be stretched out. And somewhat centered. Quick render. A little better, but not perfect yet. Gonna stretch it out a little bit more, and we can see these angles here. So to get rid of these angles, we can again go to the curve data, find the bevel and increase resolution. Doesn't seem to be helping. No, it's not helping, so probably we need to... Oh, this is this resolution. There we go. We can increase the resolution of the active spline. And we don't want to overdo this because then it's gonna get slow. And this resolution is for the bevel, so you can see it's fine to keep it at somewhat like 10. And don't forget to save, because sometimes Blender crashes. And if it ever crashes in the mod file of this file that I'm working on, there's the recover and autosave. If you do that, you will get the last autosave from 1 minute ago. Just keep that in mind, so you will lose only up to 1 minute of work if Blender crashes. I think I want to move this a little bit deeper in, like so. So what's the base resolution of your artwork, like your pixels per unit? One tile is 256 by 256. At least I export it like that. So this particular piece of work will be 768 by 1024, 3 by 4. And I don't like that. And to make this go away, that's the ugly part with automatic outlines. They're great because you don't have to manage them, but sometimes they just fail. So what I do, I just try to tweak the geometry just a little bit and re-render, and sometimes it fixes itself. And for the base resolution, I've added a option to the game where you can select a different scaling for your sprites. It requires restart, but then it can scale the sprites down. So if your graphics card is too weak, it's actually going to be automatically detected. So texture quality, you can go down to say half, a quarter, It will look a little ugly. Let's try quarter. It will look a little ugly, but it's still playable, but it's gonna use much less graphics memory. Here you can see the memory reserved 1.2 gigabytes. If I use full scale textures, it's much higher. So you can see it now. If you zoom in, you get this blur. It looks quite ugly, but I think on things like Nintendo Switch, this might be the only way to make this work. And in that case, I'm probably gonna cap the zoom, so we cannot zoom too much. We will be able to zoom up till maybe here, because otherwise it's really ugly. But at least the graphics card is gonna be happy. Yes, I am aiming for a Switch release. Let me set this back to where it was. Yeah, I will want to do a Switch release of that, and I do have, like, from the beginning of the project, I have a goal to make it work with controllers. It is controller friendly to some extent right now already, but still a long way to go. Yeah, and let's get back to our I don't know what this looks like, moonshine device. So we have one more slot here. We were gonna do one more cable. So I'm just gonna grab this cable, do Shift D to duplicate it, move it somewhere here. Maybe move it somewhere here, rotate it around a little bit. And half of the work is done. Now when you get something like that, when you rotate, and you can see that this point here, this is the origin, this yellow dot, you can do space and do origin to geometry. And the origin will be moved to the center of your object. Yeah, so then we will point this in and do Shift. I think we can get rid of some segments. Wait, why can't it delete segments? It's not deleting. Why? Delete verts? Oh, okay. Looks like Blender thinks this is a vert. So I'll make this a slightly different color. Let's make this maybe orange. But first let's put it in place so it would look good. And with curves, always best to attempt to do this with less points. The more points you add to the curve, more trouble you will have. So for example, this one might not be necessary. So I'll just instead scale that up, rotate, and plug it in here, and then scale it down just a little, make sure that it's not touching, and you see with less points it's looking more smooth. Let's do a quick render. Yeah, it's one of the beauties of Unity, but actually porting to console is much more difficult than you would imagine or expect. You would expect it to just select the switch from build menu and do run build, and you get the Switch version. Dream on. It is much more difficult than that. I do have an Xbox SDK here on my table, so I did run Stardeus on Xbox. The last time I tried that was maybe 3 months ago. It did work, but it had performance issues. You know, I'm trying hard to to go really good with performance, but yeah, so porting is actually going to be quite a task. But in the long run, I still see that it's necessary. So now we want to maybe add a little sources of light here and there. So for example, if we shift click here and do shift A, wait, we have to go out of the object mode. Shift A and do light point. We have a little point light over here. We can scale it down. Oh no, we cannot scale it. But I'm gonna move this somewhere here. And I'm gonna try to, yeah, we can adjust the radius like that. In the preview, we can see that it's already shining bright. I'm gonna select maybe red shade, something orangey looking. It's gonna look a little bit more interesting. I will reduce the power. It's gonna be just like a little hint of some light, maybe some little screen glowing here or something. Can't wait to play this in my VR headset. Yeah, that will take a while. And since we added the light here, we could do Shift D and duplicate it on the other end. Maybe also in the middle, Shift D here. So just 3 lights, I don't know where they're coming from. The light source is not visible to the player, but there will be some red shades over here. Probably coming from some light source in this direction. Alright, so now we have like this area still blank. It looks boring. I'm going to do one more loop cut over here. Let's make sure that it doesn't break anything with the bools. Now I'm gonna go to face selection mode and select, maybe let's do circular select and do something like that. So I will pick, a bunch of faces on the opposite and on the blank end right here. And I will do inset on these faces. Cannot do much of an inset. Maybe not even necessary to do an inset. What if we just do extrude and bring this somewhere and scale. That looks a little weird. That looks a little weird. I would like to scale towards the center of this object. So we can do space cursor to origin. Or maybe no, cursor to selection. So shift S2. No. I want to actually target this green, this dot. So I have to go out of here. Shift 2. Now we are targeting this. Now I'm going to select global coordinates and I select 3D cursor as the pivot point. And then when we scale, you can see that this goes in and out towards the 3D cursor. So I'm going to scale this maybe that much. I don't know. And we're gonna change the material here. I'm gonna use the brushed metal. No, that's the Y does not look good. Let's do Z. Yeah, Z looks perfect. So somehow we can see like the insides of this centrifuge or whatever it is. And how about adding some light over here? So there will be something shining in there. Like light, maybe area light, a little area light over here. So we will rotate that area light so it will shine towards that direction. We'll move it a little bit like that. Wait, G, okay, a little bit like that. Is it still there? Is it still there? Now where's the size of it? It's all crooked. Maybe we need to rotate it like so. So yeah, as you can see, I'm really eyeballing it. I just don't care. Really eyeballing it. It's gonna be fine. Let's make it a little bigger. And let's move this up. Move this that direction. A little bit back. Something like that. And we cannot see this until we rotate the object. We could do render preview in here. Yeah, so from this direction, we're gonna see something like that. And I want this light to be more powerful, I guess. And I want this to be maybe red, because there's red stuff, maybe slightly orange, and it has a nice nice effect on this bottom part. Now talking about lights, I guess that we could add something on this edge. Maybe I'm gonna select these 4 faces, do individual insets on them, do extrude, escape, scale, no, Z, Control Z, individual inset, and now I'm gonna extrude along normals. So I'll select individual origins, make sure that extrude tool is selected, extrude along normals, and I will do that. So we'll have these little embedded spots. I'm going to select blue light on them, and that will give us something like this. I still don't like the top. So I would want this to be more detailed. So what I like to do with devices is just to inset. Maybe it's gonna be like a little chimney or something. That makes sense. Extrude inwards. We're gonna put something in there. I don't know, but we could extrude like deep. It's gonna be like a real deep hole. And just to be sure that it doesn't interfere with anything, let's take a look. Yeah, we can see some other geometry going through here, but that's fine. And I made this for a reason. We're gonna also extrude this just a little bit and add this blue light. So it'll be a nice ridge. And now it's of course way too dark. It's way too dark in this hole, so we're gonna tuck in some powerful light source somewhere here. So it's gonna be a point light. I'm gonna move this up just a little bit, and it's gonna seep through this hole as well. So I'm gonna put this directly here, so it will shine both through this hole and both through this hole. And radius is fine, but I'm gonna set the, now check this out. I'm gonna set the watts to something bright, like really bright. It's too much. I still want to show that it's not the wall that is shining, but something deep in there. Are these built-in materials on the ones you made? I made them all. Most of them are just almost defaults. Some of them are procedural, some are regular. Okay, and I want this light, of course, to be somewhat more interesting. The color could be red. Or should it be green? Because this, yeah, maybe acid green, because this is a nuclear reactor. So highly saturated, acidic green light. Radioactive green. I don't like how this looks, so I'm gonna tone this light down just to make it less aggressive. Maybe even like so. No, it still looks too gradient for me. So maybe we just need more geometry here to obstruct the light. So we're gonna place a fan in here. We're gonna place some sort of I don't know, let's add a cylinder, scale it down. We could just try a cylinder in the way. But no, maybe let's do this. Scale it on Z, rotate it like that. I'm not even doing 90 degrees here. Okay, let's do 90 degrees. So I just want to put something in to see how this affects the light. And we will Alt D and R on Z by 45 degrees. Alt D, RZ 45 degrees, Alt D, RZ 45 degrees. So we get something like a fan. And we're gonna combine this. Maybe scale this a little bit. Oh, no. I want it to go to top overview and eyeball it to be somewhat in the middle. Like that. Oh. And material, of course we need a material. So we'll select maybe blue, dark desaturated. Hey Tuxedo, what's up? No, that doesn't look good. We should have to pull it deeper inside. It shouldn't be visible, it just has to... Will that release toxic fumes? Maybe. Although nuclear reactors are generally not releasing fumes. But they need water to cool. And yeah, we need to bring this in a little deeper, but then we will get this nice pattern here. Instead of just a regular blank light. And then we can play with the strength of the light to produce something more unique. So let's select this light. And what if we ramp up the strength now? Alright, so now we have something like that. There's also a way to add a nice grill over here. So I'm gonna try how this looks with the grill. Well, maybe one more thing. Let's do a loop cut right here. And I want to select this part, extrude, and then select individual origins, scale it just a little bit to close this in. So we would have more interesting light. Does that make any difference? Doesn't seem to make any difference. Yeah, that doesn't make any difference. Unless we change the material here. What if we select... Oh, really? You know what? What if we change this material to be brushed metal? That will be very glowy. Super glowy. but I don't like how dirty it looks. So we're not gonna do that, but we could easily select a different material for that. What if we select something dark like this? Oh wait, no. I need to go back. It was burst metal Y? Was it burst metal Y? Need to see. So however, you cannot undo. It was burst metal Z. You cannot undo the change when you select the material. So if you select the material, it's not going to undo if you control Z. Right. What else could we do to make it look more exciting? And we shouldn't overdo it. Like there has to be areas of rest on 3D models. You cannot make it all super busy and super. Oh, I should create a new material. Yeah, if you make this super busy, then it will not look good. Dark. What if we do blue? Darker desat. So to make it dark and then light it up. It's not even reflecting anything. We have to take something more reflective. So maybe blue dark desat. Also not reflective enough. I can already tell that. How about red or maybe green? You know what? What if we select the green? Green insides lit with green light. That doesn't work well. Yeah, something more reflective is needed. Something way more reflective. Oh, that will look terrible. Blue with green. No. No. I just want to pick a different material that we have in the outside, so the inside would be a little more unique. What if we grab this edge and move it down further away? Yeah, I think I like that. Now we could probably move this whole thing slightly above. No, we cannot move it much because it then will show, and I don't want to show it because it's ugly. Unless we change the material. What if we change this to blue light desat to the no, it's super bad. No. What if we do glass? It could be a glass material like green glass. Ooh. Yeah, so these are intersecting. That's not looking good, but what if you scale the ends of tubes down? Let's see. Let's do a loop cut here and a loop cut. Oh, that's too much eyeballing. Let's do one loop cut like that. And then select this and select this and do scale. That would look not too bad, I guess. And the problem is that it cannot be glass because this will look messed up. Yeah, that looks messed up. And it doesn't obstruct the light too much, so maybe let's get back to blue, light desaturated. Or red. Yeah, we use red, so we could try red. We could even make it emit light on its own. Oh my god, that looks terrible. And this looks like some... No, I don't like that. I think I overdid with the scaling. A little bit of scaling is fine, but that was too much. In that case, maybe we could move this all the way up. How did that look? This looks bad. Let's move it out of the view. So it will still affect lights, but not be visible. And when I scale these down, it doesn't affect the light that much anymore. We can see slight ramps here, but nothing too spectacular. Maybe the light itself needs to be toned down again. Where is it? And I don't like the color. It should be less aggressive. Let's make it darker. How would... Oh yeah, if we make the light smaller, we see better ridges, which I like. But on the other hand, it's not easy to tell where these are coming from, so maybe just something in between. Now how about also, how about something with this? No. I want to add a bit more detail here because this is the part of the reactor which has a lot of detail, and I want to add a little bit more. So there should be some areas on the art that has more details than others. Maybe we could embed this quite deep and make it also blue light. Yeah, so now we can see more geometry here, which makes that part more interesting, so the eye automatically grabs this, like examines this detail and then runs through the whole thing. It doesn't look too empty anymore when you have some areas of high density of detail. But this is a little blank. So how about adding one more big amount of detail with oh no. Yeah, so if I take this part and let's just, I don't know, extrude, scale it down without Z. No, that doesn't work well. We need to scale it to the .3D cursor. Scale it down. And let's assign the same brushed metal. So just slightly more detail, but just this one more cut with some different material over there. Grabbing some lunch, bon appetit. All right, so now it's a little bit more detailed, subtle, not too much. We could maybe add some lights over here, like we have in there. So some lights from the sides, and in this case, let's also add them from above. So we will select something like that. I don't like that it's not symmetrical. How about selecting the whole thing and deselecting these and doing checker deselect to try. It's not working with the bottom, but I can see if we do like 2 and gap would be 2, offset 1 to the other direction, that's perfect. So we're gonna inset that individually, extrude upwards. Oh my god, no. Should have deselected the whole bottom. It's not that simple. There we go. So extrude, no, first dot. Always press dot on numpad if you find that your navigation gets weird. That helps. Extrude upward just a little bit, and blue light so it will shine on our reactor wall. It's not going to be directly visible, but you will see some detail, like there is some different color over here because of these lights. And I don't see why we couldn't do the same thing with similar planar. It's not selecting. Oh, because there's a tilt. These are tilted, and actually the tilt makes it so that the light is not shining properly. So I'm going to do something about that. I will get back and select this, and I will do SZ0. No, not like that. Individually, like bottom and the top. I will select them individually. C to go to circular select mode, hold middle mouse button, deselect what's not needed. And we have only the bottom, right? Now we're going to do SZ0 to flatten it out. It doesn't look too good, but we can do GZ and move it down. We can actually find a better placement for it. It doesn't have to be... But we could snap to the vertex. We can go here, select vertex, and if we do GZ and then hold Control, we can snap to that. So we will do the same on the top end. Alt, click on the edge to select that. C to go to circle. Oh wait. C to go to circle. Hold middle mouse button. Clear the bottom of the selection. Right click. SZ0. Left click. GZ and hold Control and snap to that vertex. So now we have a flat top and bottom. And I want to do checker deselect again. And do extrude, no, Control Z after extrude, which was cancelled. Gonna do those little lamps. Maybe not even extrude, you know what, we don't even need to extrude. We just assign blue light. It's gonna be more visible this way. Because we never see this from this angle. So extruding only makes it, only dims the light, but we don't want that. And on the bottom we can now do select similar coplanar to select only this. And we can do checker deselect again. And I to inset them just a little bit, extrude just a little bit, apply blue light, and let's render. And we can see how nice the reflection will look like. So these little details sometimes add up. Best not to overdo, but at least it's not as bad as having like a huge empty spaces on the device. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna keep this for now. It's far from perfect. We might be redoing this, but this was just to like illustrate how I go with designing things for Stardeus. Yeah, so it's free-form process, nothing premeditated. Yeah, and now finally we can export. Oh, one more critical piece of thing. We need a shadow here. There's no shadow, so we have to go select the bottom face, Shift D to duplicate, Z to lock it on Z axis, move it down a little bit, P to separate the selection. We have the separate object now. Now we unselect everything, select just this bottom. It's a separate object. Now we're gonna go to top view, scale it a little bit, maybe that much. Now we're gonna do tab, select this. Now the important part, space, mark, freestyle face. I think I mentioned this in the tutorial. But what will that do? If we don't do that, and if we render, this will be the shadow catcher. If we render the shadow catcher and not mark freestyle space, there will be a outline around the shadow catcher, while the shadow catcher is not going to be visible. And we have to go to this square here to object properties and make sure that this has the shadow catcher mask, so it's not going to be rendered. And we want to select a material. We can remove existing materials, and we can select shadow catcher material. Now if we render, we're gonna see that now there is a shadow here, and we can play with a lot of options. Now this looks like it's hovering in air. If you move the shadow closer, it will look a little different, but it might be looking worse. So it's up to you to play around. And sometimes what I do, especially with square objects, I extrude this face down, and I go and make sure that Control A scale is reset. Go to modifiers, and yeah, this is not needed. Add a bevel modifier, and I bevel maybe with something like 16 edges. So I add this little bevel, and then when you, for example, scale this from above, select all, scale. Okay, so let's scale this up a little bit. So the shadow falls off smoother through this bevel. Sometimes I do that. Actually, I do that really often on the objects. Let's see how this looks. And it's important to see that the shadow is not reaching the edge, because right now the shadow is going to be cut on the edge. So to avoid the cutting here, what we could do is just scale down the whole model a little bit. Or reduce the size of the shadow catcher. But this little shadow is like it's easy to forget, but it adds a little depth to the looks. Yeah, so basically we need to scale this a little bit. And to scale everything, exit the edit mode, Shift C to center the 3D cursor on the center. Select all that you have here, and then with S you can scale it all at the same time. And it's gonna be slow with all the geometry, but we could do S 0.95 to reduce it by 5%, for example. And if we try to render now, the edge should be further away, and we'll get the shadow. If you zoom in, you can see clearly where the shadow ends. We could actually give it a little bit more space, but that's fine. We will have some edge, have some corners empty. And yeah, now the final thing is to test how this looks when you export it. Before exporting, always make sure that like in the end, in the bottom here, you don't have any objects, because sometimes objects are added in the bottom, and when you export you will see like some parts of the meshes did not get rotated, so that's the reason usually, because everything has to be in this collection. So now to export it, I'm just going to do export nuclear reactor, and while the export is running, I will go to my graphics folder, objects, devices, and I will start seeing the exported stuff here. So nuclear will be somewhere, there we go, nuclear reactor. So that's the down, render, and soon enough we will see the rotations popping up. So that's the left render, and we can inspect if nothing gets cut, if we have the nice outlines everywhere. Sometimes, you know, especially when it's not a round object, things can get like cut if they are too far away in the rotated version. So yeah, this part looks a little ugly, but whatever, I'm gonna keep it for now. And the last rotation, we usually see the last rotation in the render screen here in Blender. It's gonna work for me. Right, so when we do that, we have to import everything back to the game. So we need to go and create a device. So I'm gonna go to matter reactor JSON file, and I'll just copy it. I'll just copy it, call it nuclear reactor. Prerequisites is research energy advanced. We're gonna add new branch of research energy nuclear. So let's step back and find energy advanced. This is the definition of the research. I'm gonna copy it and name it energy nuclear. And it's gonna use the same icon. Maybe we'll have a biohazard or nuclear icon, something. Lane, let's keep it for now. Time, let's make it like 15, so it's gonna be 15 days to research. For nuclear energy, I would say that we want a lot of energy burn, so like 300. Memory gonna be high, like 64. Storage will be like, I don't know, 80. So it's gonna be expensive, and we will need advanced, we will need energy advanced as a prerequisite. So this is how you add a new research branch, research node. And then we go back to the nuclear reactor. we're using this prerequisite that we just created, energy nuclear. Transform, we need to make it 3 by 3 and it has a height, but the graphics already... Wait. We don't have has height true in the matter reactor. Sprite devs. Matter reactor 2 by 3. Huh. Or is it that has height is default? Tile graphics component config has height. Yeah, false is default. So what the hell? Why is matter reactor tile graphics? Oh, I know why. Because we're having parent ID, and parent ID is matter reactor mini. So we should be looking at matter reactor mini. So this is inheritance of these JSON files, and in mini reactor we have has height set to true. But for the nuclear reactor, I think we will not have the matter reactor mini as a parent. So the parent of the matter reactor mini is base tile. We're gonna do that with nuclear reactors. So parent will be base tile. And you can then find the base tile to see what it does. It's just a set of components and something we will override. So yeah, we have tile graphics. It will have key has height, bool true. And graphics will be nuclear reactor. It's going to be refillable storage, device type, nuclear reactor, fuel, material capacity, matter reactor. It will use the matter reactor component. Max rate will be 500, so it's going to be 10 times more powerful. A light source, we could make it shine a little bit further away, so 15. Yeah, let's make it shine brighter, 192. Color, let's keep it as it is in the matter reactor, so it's gonna be somewhat bluish, maybe we'll make it green. Ambience Clip, now this is something new. I have added some ambience files recently that we could use in the game. So let me see, sounds. We can choose a clip. That's gonna do hum 12. So we go here, do hum 12. Link to energy true will mean that it will only hum when the energy is being produced or consumed. Otherwise it will not. And what else do we need to do? Let's take a look at fluid cannon, because it has refillable storage and it sets this solidity filter to liquid. Now in the nuclear reactor we want to have something here as well, but it's not going to be solidity filter. Or maybe we should have solidity type renamed into something like property filter. But what I want to do here is to set like nuclear and to make it so that we can only fill it up with items that are nuclear. So uranium and not steel. Yeah. So solidity filter nuclear. So I'm gonna temporarily reuse the solidity filter, but I'm gonna go to uranium definition and water definition And solidity is liquid. In the uranium I will do solidity nuclear. And we will change the solidity into something else. So let's open. First I want to just check if this works. Now I think that we need to go to solidity type and add this nuclear thing here. Yeah, that's fine. So nuclear reactor will allow only nuclear fuel. Constructible amount, let's make it expensive to build, so 5,000 or something. And we will want to use maybe uranium up front. So 5 uranium to build this, and skill checks, of course, let's make like, I don't know, 9. Construction promises shitloads of electricity. We will want to probably add science to the mix here, but I'm not using science yet. So I'm not gonna do that. Steel, let's do 100 steel, 10 glass, 5 uranium. And we're ready to test. So this is basically how mods will be constructed. Yes, as you can see I wrote 0 lines of code. Well, except for the solidity type change to add nuclear here, but you can use just a string, and then you can introduce your own material with your own solidity as a string here, and that would participate in that filter. But I will change solidity to something more like property or something, because it used to define just if it's a gas, liquid, or something, and now it will also have a nuclear flag in it. And now we can go to Unity and try building that reactor. Let's pick a save which has bigger empty spaces. Instant build is disabled. Let's take a look at the research tree first. Now you can see there's energy nuclear over here. We could start the research, but it's expensive, we cannot do that. It will unlock the nuclear reactor, and I'm gonna collect these translations that are missing right now. So I will also do unlock the instant build, so we can build the reactor. Where is it? There it is. We can build it. We can choose the rotation. I forgot to position the work spot though. So the work spot is supposed to be in here. So let me fix that. Now it is over here. And I want to make the work spot more visible, so let me see. Nuclear reactor work spot was 0 on X, -1 on Y. It's gonna be 2 on X and -1 on Y. Yeah, the work spot color. Let's make it. I'm gonna open up my palette tool. By the way, if you want to generate the palettes like that, there's a free tool that I use all the time, so you can basically, this is the Stardeus palette, and you can add more colors, but I think I used 20, and you can then do like more luminosity steps if you want more detail on that. The luminosity shift and hue shift, just keep those as they were. Yeah, so let's pick a color for the work spot. I will make it darker because usually everything is pretty much bright around. So maybe something like that. And then we copy the 115, 6138. 115, 6138. And this thing here is the transparency. I'm gonna put this to 128, so it's gonna be 50% transparent. I did send a link, just see a couple of messages above. Okay, so if we save, and load. Oh, Philip, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Oh, and thank you for the raid. Wow, thank you. Welcome. Partial load failure. What happened here? No reference. Yeah, something went wrong. So what's up, guys? What are you working on? What are you working on? Game developer. Happenlands.com. Game developer. Oh, I don't like duplicate sound. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm gonna give you a follow. Was playing games, but was doing some game dev earlier. Nice. So I want to figure out why this crashed. Failed reinitializing nuclear reactor. Constructible component. Entity passability. Oh, nuclear reactor has to have a passability block. So let's go to man reactor mini. And we also need, you know what, I'm gonna do this like the matter reactor is doing. We will extend from matter reactor mini, not from base style. And this means that we don't need that. We just override the graphic, override the size, override the refillable storage. Constructible, but we will have from the matter reactor mini, we will inherit energy node. We will inherit the passability. That's what was crashing. Should stream game dev again. Haven't in a long time. Yeah, you should. It's fun. It also helps focusing, at least for me. Are we gonna load? Yeah, we did load. And now we have this power hungriness here, so we can plug it into the grid. And it's not configured. So we need to, we don't have available materials here. If you would build a regular matter reactor, you would see that you can fill it up with a lot of materials here, like steel. But this one wants uranium and we don't have it. Select fuel type, see no available materials. So let's spawn some uranium through the dev tooling. There it is, the green stuff. And now we can select uranium. And now this uranium will be hauled over here. Reactor is filled in. It's not producing any electricity, but if we turn off the solar panels, for example, the reactor will take over and we hear the hum. It's producing 132 kilowatts. So there we go, we just implemented a new device in the game in right about 10 minutes. Gotta sleep, but this looks pretty cool. Thank you so much, best of luck, have a good night. Thank you again for the raid. Yeah, so designing the graphics was the hard part, and adding a new device. And see, the work spot is now much more clearly visible, at least on white, on bright floors. But I think I should render the work spot as a circle. That would be more convenient. Let's go to Tool, Free Select, On Post Render Internal. Oh, there's the render work spot. So how about doing a render circle hollow, and it will be just 0.5 for the radius. Okay. Oh, that looks ugly. It should be smaller. Let's make it 0.3. It looks like it's made of poop. Maybe I chose the wrong color. Let's redo the color, because brown work spot doesn't feel right. So maybe make it purple, because workers have some purple in it, because supercomputer is purple. Let's do purple. Let's do 99, 38, 115. That will be fine. And if we are trying to build something, yeah, the circle shows up here. Early on, some playtesters confused this circle with the position of the object and said, like, it's weird to place, like, it's weird that the object is rotating not around the position or something like that. Like this better than the square standouts more. Yeah, because square is for this, and this implies that we don't have a being, because when you select a being, it's outlined by a circle. So we know that this is supposedly a place for a being to step in. Right, so I do have two